For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
I'm Steve Torrence, four-time NHRA Top Fuel World Champion. And when me and these Capco boys win races, we go straight WFO.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO, and it is U.S. Nationals week. That's right, the Dodge Power Brokers U.S. Nationals are this week, and we are getting ready to roll out to Indy and go through the journey that is the Big Go. That's what it is. You know, I get in on Wednesday, and we'll leave on Tuesday the following week. Many competitors, I'm sure they're there right now, getting queued up, getting ready in the lines, getting ready to get stacked and parked and ready to go. What we've got to do is handle some business from the last race. We got to speak with our Nitro winners, Steve Torrence, Bob Tasca, the Killer T's, going to be on this show. We got Steve already queued up. He is kind of in a different situation than we normally hear from him. Tasca will be joining us as well. Before we get to Steve, though, fans of Steve and Capco, you want to share the show, let me tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, and then I'll tell you a little more about them in between Steve and Tasca. But it has been really great. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology, going to have two trackside tech talks out there at Indy, one on Friday, one on Saturday. For those of you that are interested in learning a little up close and personal details about ring seal, totalseal.com. Told you already about FTI performance transmissions and torque converters. What are the odds that an FTI car goes on and wins the deal? Probably pretty high. Phillips-Connect.com for those of you in the transportation industry, smart trailer technology, keeping track of the loads and keeping people on the roads safe. Phillips-Connect.com. Bernie Speed Shop of Ocala, Florida. That's Josh Hart's company. Bernie Speed Shop is in Ocala, and they are doing a great job with frame-off restorations and everything you could possibly need or want to do to a car. They can do it, plus trucks and trailers, etc., and so on. Plus samtech.edu, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School and the Dragster Adventure, Torque Calibration Services of Australia for this week, of course, and my buddy, Marvin Rodak, rodakscoffeeandgrills.com. We'll go into detail a little bit later, but now we're going to go into detail on his big win leading into the U.S. Nationals. Steve Torrence joins us now. What's up, Steve?
How you doing there, Joe?
Not as good as you, because you're on vacation. You're at the beach somewhere.
Yeah, we're hanging out at the beach. We had a long weekend. We have an annual family trip that we do every summer down to Florida and hang out for a few days, and then just enjoy something drastically different than what we normally do. So away from work for a few days and just relaxing.
Love it. Well, you deserve it. You work hard. You got to play hard. I love the beach. You know, I'm a South Florida kid. Before we went on air, we talked a little bit about the difference between like Gulf side and ocean side and sand and salt and all of that. But the relaxation you can get when you're hanging by the water is unparalleled.
It really is. And it's just a good place to kind of get away. I mean, right now is the time where all the tourists have kind of gone. All the kids are back in school. So we come down and rent a house and just really enjoy each other and in a very low stress situation. So get away for a few days and hang out.
All right. So we want to mix this half Lucas Oil Nationals win, half Indy preview. I was going back looking at the final last year. You know, you and Britt in the final round of the U.S. Nationals, you guys have been just battling each other for the past 5 years in so many big situations. When we look back at this time, we're going to think about this as a just a fun battle and rivalry, but the battle rages on this year, right through this year. And you guys raced at the Lucas Oil Nationals. What do you take away from that race as you look back to Bobby said it in a John Kernan report that the driver won that one with pedaling the car and just like getting it down through there was very helpful to winning that race.
You know, that's one of the victories that you do take pride in, and you take pride in every one. But when you're able to go out there and really just contribute to winning the race other than just stepping on the gas on time and driving it straight, because that's when everything goes right. That's when the guys do their job. The car is doing what it's supposed to do, and it takes all the pressure off the driver, and you just go drive. But when things are not going the best, when you have to step on the gas and then wait and see if it's going to spin the tire, if it does spin the tire, wait and let it calm down. That's when we're able to win or lose the race as a driver. And it can go any way. It can go, I mean, I could have just as easily been on the side of Brittany or Antron or whoever else throughout a day like that. But that day I made the right decisions. The car did what it was supposed to do. And you have luck on your side at all times, because the good Lord just looks after you. Because when that thing smokes the tires at the hit and you're able to get it to recover and go back down through there, everything had to go perfect. But that was one of the race wins that will be most memorable for me. Just that day of having to, you drive that thing like a bicycle. You had to pedal it so much. So I'll remember that one for a long time.
But it's not like, okay. And so now we can talk about the slump, which might have been, statistically the second longest no win streak of your career prior to the first one, I believe. We had crunched these numbers a little bit, but it wasn't really that bad, is the point. It really wasn't that bad, especially since you had been making final rounds and you'd been going deep into eliminations. Antron got to win the race before over you. And now I'm wondering, is the rest of the field going, because you've made back-to-back finals and you're going into Indy and the playoff right now. And the lowest you've been in points is 4th. So I know you've talked about it a lot, but now that that's over, let's kind of reanalyze all that went on during that period.
I guess with the performance that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, we have set the bar for ourselves fairly high. And I remember a time in my career where I went multiple seasons without winning a race, never before ever winning a race. So to go 15 races, and I don't know how many finals, 3 or 4 finals in that time period, I wouldn't by any means classify that as a slump. It's just not what everyone was used to seeing us do. And someone had told me earlier in the season that we hadn't went more than 3 races without winning a race for quite some time. So it's all relative and it's all in perspective, but we have a really good team. Nothing changed other than some of the parts and pieces that we're doing. And a couple guys, we lost a couple guys this year just for the sheer fact that they were tired of racing. They wanted to go home. So other than that, everything's the same. It's still the same Capco boys. And so I'm excited about it. But as for a team and morale and just to get that win, because we're not used to going to the final and not winning the race. And to kind of get the monkey off of our back, and especially at this time and heading into Indy, it feels good. It gives you some of that swagger and some of that confidence that you need going into the biggest race of the season, 1.5 points, and preparing for that championship countdown. And though we've had a lot of success in the past, you still feed off of that. You still get energy, you get motivated from those wins and from doing well at the right time. And I'm happy that it's coming at this point. Would I say that we're back to 100% like we were? No, I don't think so. But we're close. And it's that little shot in the arm that you need to kind of get over the edge. And I feel like that's where we're at right now.
Well, it's hard to when you think of what the results might be, right? Like if Steve and Capco go on to win their 5th championship, then we're going to look back at the start of this season and we're going to think that was time well spent, because you had to learn some things to be able to run in the cool weather with Grubnick, what he's doing, and others. If you don't, man, you still had a great and amazing run. You're in the middle of the fight and you go after it next year, right? Like we just don't know what lies ahead is the point. And when we're trying to tell the story in the moment, oh man, it's been 2 races since they won. It's been 3 races since they won. Oh my gosh, it's been 15 races since they won. What's going on? That's just like the story of drag racing. And hopefully people follow along each week and your fans feel a little anxiety and then they feel a burst of emotion when you're able to deliver.
Yeah. And I've had so much support from the fans. And I mean, you have those fair weather fans that are Brittany fans this week and Steve fans this week and Justin Ashley fans next week. So you can't really count on those to pull you through, but you can count on the ones that no matter how bad you're doing or what you do or anything, they support you. And that's what's really helped me to stay driven and focused, because it has been frustrating. I mean, admittedly so, when you're used to performing at one level and you don't get there, it's a hard pill to swallow, but you know that it's for the greater good, and that's what you've set your sights on doing. And so we're appreciative for everybody that supported us. I mean, but I talked to the guys at Mac Tools, at Redline, at Toyota, and those guys know what we're capable of. And so at the end of the day, as long as I keep all the boys at Capco and my mom and dad happy with the performance of the car, and all of our guys that support us with Mac and Redline and Toyota, the other people's naysaying doesn't really matter that much. So we just do what we do.
Right. You mentioned Toyota, and I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it because it's just, like those guys felt like, oh my gosh, we came on the car and then, the winning slowed down. Like, is it us? Which it's not that. It's just the random circumstances of life and going on streaks and non-streaks, and everybody feels like their energy is connected to everything in the very superstitious sport of racing. But you delivered for those guys, and they seem really happy. And next thing you know, NHRA is trending on Twitter. And when you can win for Toyota, they go all out to push it out there. And I think we saw after the Lucas Oil Nationals the result of what could happen with Toyota and you guys pushing at the same time.
Yeah, and Toyota is a breath of fresh air for NHRA. They need some kind of revitalization within themselves. And Toyota does a great job of really pushing their drivers, not just one or two people over and over. So Toyota has been awesome to be part of. They're a great group, a great family, and we've joked all year that a lot of the keyboard crew chiefs on Facebook have been blaming Toyota for our lack of success, and then they joke with me about it. But it's been a great deal for Toyota.
And well, exactly. And then it's like amazing what one win can do to change a storyline. And back-to-back finals, by the way, I think is important. Anything else we got to go back and talk about before we look ahead to this weekend? I know that Bobby had told me in Kansas, we were complaining about the New York Yankees, our favorite, mutual favorite baseball team. And then the subject switched, and he goes, man, we're not hitting on all the calls, right? Like for a good run, we would make a call and it would work out and the car would go down the racetrack. We're in some winnable races, but we're doing our best to make the calls. And I think they're going to start going our way. And look what happened, right? You guys have made some calls, spinning the tires, sure, but you got the win to prove it. So sometimes we can make too much about a circumstance. And that's why your guy Jordan, you got to keep shooting, right? No matter what, you got to keep shooting if you're confident in yourself.
Yep. And 100%. And Bobby and Richard and Justin and Gary and every guy on the team has really just stayed the course, nose to the grindstone, and just stay on it. And that's what it takes. We didn't start out as a championship team. We built ourselves to be there, and we didn't just fall away either. So we'll continue going, and it's just evolution. A lot of these guys have stepped up. A lot of teams have gotten better. I don't think our performance has been as consistent and as dominant. And given some of the guys that have beat us, we've lessened some of the fear, because the consistency of that Capco car has been a fear factor to a lot of people, that it's going to go down the track 95% of the time. And we've lost that. And that's something that we're going to have to build back on, because I think that intimidation factor is a huge factor when you go up there to the starting line of what the car beside you is going to do based on what you've been doing.
How important is having this guy at the track with you?
That is not only my dad, but one of my best friends in the whole world. And to have him at the racetrack with us I work with my dad every day. I see my dad 12 hours a day, every day, whether we're working or racing. And so to have him there, to have him here with us celebrating and hanging out it's just a blessing. you don't appreciate your parents as much when you're younger as you do as you get older. But I'm so thankful for him and my mom and my wife and just my family, because we race as a family. We race because we enjoy racing together. That picture right there is what we do. We race. And without those 4 people in the background right there, I wouldn't be anywhere. I wouldn't be what I am or anything close to it today. And it's just, that's what we do. We race because we enjoy racing.
You can't say it better. Like, we need people like that to support our sport, to push it out there. Talk about this guy in the final round, though. That's pretty amazing. The two dominant creatures of Top Fuel going back to this start of this century. And, he had a tough road to the final round too, right? The cars, no electronics, all kinds of issues. But in the end, man, they were getting after it, and then they started to turn the tires and you drove on by. But as a fan of drag racing, you have to be excited to get in there and mix it up with Tony Schumacher, something you really haven't had the opportunity to do over your run.
No, and you got to remember, I have raced Tony quite a bit. But my first race win came against Tony in Atlanta of 2012. I would like to say that proudly, I am one of the people that kept him from sweeping all of the events and winning Atlanta. Tony was the guy that I watched. Tony was the guy I rooted for as time progressed. You had Bernstein, you had Joe Amato and Ormsby. Those were the guys when I was a kid. But then you get older and the Sarge is just kicking everybody's butt. And so I rooted for him all the time. And then to be able to race him has been really special. He's a wealth of knowledge on driving a race car. And I've said it over and over. It's because he's been in these situations so many times that he knows how to handle it. He knows what to do. And the only way that you can become that way is by doing it. I'm a different driver today than I was 2 years ago, 4 years ago, or 6 months ago. It's the situations that you go through, the experiences that lead you to become that way. And Tony's the machine. He's always the same every time, every trip, and he does what it takes to win. And so to go up there, I mean, you see the guy. I remember, I think it was the semifinals. They strap him in the car in the pits. The camera's following him all the way up to the starting line. To stay focused, to stay composed through that, I've done that. It's difficult. That's a situation where your routine is shot. You're out of your complete routine of how you get in the car, how you prepare yourself mentally, what you think about. You get in the car back there at the pits, they tell you up there to the starting line, they fire it up and it's time to go and you got to perform. And he did well at that. And then to go up there in the final, I knew what we were going to try to do, and what we did was exactly what we were trying to do. And sometimes you just lay up and see what they do. Nobody had been down the track in the 2 rounds before. So we needed to go A to B. We needed to get down through there. And we left. I was a little bit late. I was 82, I think, and he was 58. Worst lot I had all day. But you just, sometimes you get to thinking, this thing's probably going to smoke the tires. I need to get it down through there and rely less on just cutting the light, because there's a lot of stuff happening in a very, very short period of time. So we left, and I could tell that I was late. I knew I'd missed it a little bit, and I see the nose of that car stick out there to the right lane just a little bit, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, crap, here it goes. And then I'm motoring down through there, and all of a sudden, I saw it just slide back, and I said, thank you. Just keep going, babe. Keep going. And we made it all the way to the end. But it's comical that all of that took place in 3.8 seconds. But it seemed like an eternity, where you step on the gas, you're late, you see the car driving away beside you, you see them come back, and then you just hope for the finish line to come sooner and sooner and sooner.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how quickly the human brain can work when required to work fast. Eddie's out there. He says he likes your hat. What is that? A different Torrance hat? What do we got here?
Yeah, this is
vacation Torrance hat.
This is a floral print Torrance Land and Cattle hat. I did a couple of these just for myself and my buddies, and now had tons of people wanting them. So I think they'll be available on the website pretty soon.
I like it. All right, let's turn our attention to the U.S. Nationals, the biggest drag race in the world. Over 900 competitors entered, people waiting to get in. But the big thing that's going to involve you right away is the Pep Boys All-Star call-out from Gainesville. And we did a press conference last week. You, Brittany, Mike Salinas, and Justin Ashley. No ducks on the pond here. Brittany gets to call out someone. That's going to happen on Friday. For my money, if I'm setting up like what I think should happen, I think prison rules should apply here. Not that I know about them, but I've seen movies. And Brittany should call out the baddest dog, and that should be you to create the most entertaining situation. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, Justin, Mike, like there's no easy race right there. So you might as well come up with the most entertaining and come up and poke you in the belly and say that it's going to be you. What do you think about all of this? The call out, the way it's working, the way it works, and is it entertaining?
I think it's entertaining for the fans for certain. It brings personality into it. It brings none of us are really rivals. We all like to beat each other. We all like to talk a little bit of trash. Probably less for Justin and Brittany than me and Mike, but we have a good time doing it. I have respect for all three of those drivers. Brittany's kicked our butt all year. Justin comes in. He's one of the best levers in the place. Mike has been out here a few years, but I mean, they've really come on strong. So it's crazy how it's worked out, because it's 1 through 4 and the points basically are going through the Pep Boys to try to be at the top. And I've actually thought about the strategy that will come in from Brittany, and at the end of the day, it's not Brittany, it's not me, it's not Mike. It's going to be the crew chiefs that decide who to race. But I don't think that anybody in there is just a pushover. Not myself, not Justin, not Mike. And statistically, those two cars have been tougher than us. So I don't know if you go for the weak link first, or you try to pick the one off that you think is the most difficult, the quickest. Because whoever you give the most opportunity to go down the racetrack the most makes them more deadly. Right. And so, it's kind of like that first punch always is the most devastating. And that's what they're going to have to figure out. And that's for us to deal with. So I honestly look forward to it. I like to be on top of the mountain looking down, but sometimes I like to go up that mountain and just take control. And so we'll see who gets to do what.
Well, exactly. And that's what this is about. Brittany has, I spoke with John last week on the show. Everybody, you should go back and check that out. And we had a great week last week, but I was just thinking about it after I got off the interview. As you can imagine, I'll come up with 10 great questions for you as soon as we end the interview. That's just the way it works, right? But what a cool opportunity that she has right now, and Robert has, to make a call out in Funny Car to create a moment, just to create a fun moment that will get replayed over and over again if it's Justin or if it's Mike. But there's no real long-lasting rivalry between the two of them and Brittany. It would just be another race. You guys have got this 5-year-long epic that has been going on and continuing on. And whatever moment gets created can either be small or it can be giant. And I just think that the biggest, clearest moment to create it's obvious to call you out. We'll see though, right? We don't know.
See. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, none of us know, and we'll see who she calls out. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, you can't take it personal, because it's all based on what the crew chief wants to race and who they think they can beat. But it's up to us as drivers to go out there and execute and do our jobs. And last weekend she and I raced, and it was up to the drivers, because the crew chiefs both did the same thing. We went 2 feet and nothing. And so I've been in this situation numerous times with a lot of these shootout races. That comes down to the driver. You win them or lose them on hole shots and how you drive the car.
All right. So the Friday night session, though, I think is going to be very interesting, because it's going to be cool. And if you can come off the trailer and throw one down, that could end up being number one for the weekend. But what am I telling you about strategy? You tell me about strategy. Back to original Indy, 5 qualifying sessions, Monday race day. Some people are saying it's going to be hot. I don't know. But give me your, you've been thinking about it, I'm sure. What do you see unfolding as we go back to a classic Indy format?
So I guess first round of the Pep Boys is first round on Saturday, correct? That's
Yeah,
Q2 will be first round.
Q2. Friday night will be the actual call out. We'll think about it all night. And then Q2 will be Pep Boys, Top Fuel round, the semifinal round. And then I guess 3 will be the final round.
So what you got to look at is you need to come off the trailer and qualify well. I think there's 23 or 24 cars there. So that first run is really going to be your first shot at getting in the show, and maybe not trying to go to number 1, but be in the top half and feel a little more safe about staying in the field. If you go up there not qualified for second round and you're going to try to win the round, you may risk smoking the tires. And even if you do win the round, that doesn't get you qualified. And then you go up there for third round, and even if you win the race in some type of pedal fest, you may not be qualified. So you really got to go up there and have your ducks in a row on Friday night to be somewhat close to the top and safe in the field, to feel more comfortable about going out and racing on Saturday. Because you don't want to, nobody wants to come down to the last day, the final hour, to try to get in the field at Indy. And we need to use all of those. We need to use that time and those runs for information on Monday, because they're going to be spread out differently throughout the day, and hopefully the conditions will stay somewhat near the same. So Friday night, you need to go out and run well. I don't know if being number 1 is going to be our main focus, as far as just being qualified well and put ourselves in a position to go race on Saturday.
That's interesting. That's really good information right there. For someone that's got a shot at 80 grand in this all-star call out, 24 cars. We could have a consolation race with 8 Top Fuel dragsters. That would be pretty cool. And that's exciting, but it's also challenging. One of the hitters could not qualify. That's where we're back at. I wish we had 20 cars at every race, but we're going to enjoy it here this weekend. It obviously changes the strategy.
It definitely does. And I remember years back where you go into a race weekend and one of your top 4 guys in the points is going into the final session not qualified, and it really puts their back against the wall, and it changes the dynamic of the points and how things work and how people race. Because when you go up there and you have 15 cars, well, number 1's getting a bye. So now you're just racing for number 1. There's no risk of not qualifying. So it allows a lot of teams to go out there and try to run 61 or 63 or whatever and really flex instead of a strategy. But and not taking away from anything, but that's where you get to see those kind of runs, because there's no layups or there's no caution. If you make one good run and you're number 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever it is, you can go up there and throw for the fence for the next 3 or next 2 laps to try to get into that number 1 spot and get the bye. So I think it's so much better when we have when your back's against the wall and when you've got 25 cars or 18 cars or whatever it is, and there's not room for mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like you got something to race with down this stretch? I mean, maybe you said a couple of years ago you swept them all, and you're the only person who can ever say that, right? Like, and I don't think that's ever going to happen again, frankly. Like, that's a deadlock super stat for NHRA drag racing. It's not really a thick limb prediction, though, in that no one is going to sweep the countdown ever again. That's not going to happen. But you can draw on that and say, yeah, we did it. We can do anything. How do you feel about your chances for the remainder of this deal?
I'm very confident going in, and NHRA thought no one would ever sweep the countdown before, and so we did it. And we could, or someone else could do it again. We're not as dominant as what people have seen us in the past, but we're not that far off to not be worried about us coming into the countdown. And I think that our guns are loaded. We're ready to go. And,
that's awesome.
And I got a good team behind me, and I've got confidence that when it comes time, I can go toe to toe with anybody out there and get it done and get my job done. And sometimes you have to prove that to yourself. And last Sunday was a reminder of it for me.
All right, let me show you this video real quick. Let me see if I can bring this thing up.
dang, I missed that horn.
What a great moment, right? Like that was, I was asking you, like, where's the horn? Bobby's like, oh, we're going to leave it in the truck. And next thing you know, it found its way out and you chased away every seagull that was picking garbage from the grandstand.
Joe, that right there is why we race. We race to celebrate with our team, to enjoy what we do, and to blow that noisy ass horn. And the one that I was so tired of hearing and cannot wait to hear it again, because eventually you're like, man, I wish we could blow that horn this weekend, because we don't pull that thing out unless we win the race. And so happy and proud to have it out at Brainerd, to go back-to-back 2 years, and to do it there, because that's a great facility, a great place, great track owners, and at the right time for all the Capco boys to get our teeth sharpened and ready to go into this countdown.
There you go. Steve, thank you for making the time. You're on vacation, right? Like we took some relaxation time away from you, but I appreciate it. We got to talk about this win, and now you're going into the U.S. Nationals. Good luck.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Talk soon. There he goes. Steve Torrence, 4-time champ with us here on WFO Radio. And I see Bob Tasca is down there. And just hang with me, folks. All you funny car fans need to start sharing and retweeting. All your Torrence fans, you're retweeting. Got to tell you about some things before it's all over. Going to let Bob finish his little beverage. He is all ready to go, and bring him on. BT3. Killer T's, Torrence and Tasca here on a Monday of WFO. What's up, Bob? Oh, he got a call. He got a text. There he is. Now he's back.
There he is. How are you, Joe?
I'm great. How about you?
Very good.
So going into Indy, Torrence, you heard him. He's fired up. Are you starting to feel like the Indy vibes? Are you, is your body and your muscle memory like kicking in? Do you know what's about to happen to you?
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, Indy's Indy. It's the only race like it anywhere in the country. It's the biggest race of the year. I've been going there since I was a kid. I've had a lot of success there. I haven't won it yet, but yeah, very excited. Can't wait to get there. I know the guys are excited. Cars running good, drivers running good, crew chiefs are doing good. So we got some good momentum going into, the last race of the regular season. And, I've said it many times, our focus is winning a championship. And, Indy will be a pivotal race. You can, we have an opportunity to move up in the points. Every point matters. A lot of money on the line, a lot of TV time on the line, and get the Pep Boys shootout. We want to win one of those. So it's the first time I'll be able to, that I've ever competed in one of the shootouts, because it went away for a few years, but we'll see. Weather's going to be good. Should be an action-packed weekend, Joe.
All right, let's look back at the Lucas Oil Nationals. I know you're busy. I want to rapid fire through some things here. But that race, it was hot. It was tricky. There was people going up in smoke. And Mike Neff, you've been talking about the breadth of the tunability of the car, and it seems very true. Even in the final round, you guys laid down a pass that they were not within, it was like 600. It was like a 94 to a 4.0. You can do things that others can't do in conditions that are challenging. And Mike Neff, John Schaefer, whatever they've done, they seem to have something now that runs well in all the conditions we've seen.
It was funny how that weekend played out, because Friday and Saturday were throw down. It was throw down, and, we ran extremely well. Hagan ran well. Robert ran well. There's a couple of cars that ran right with us. And then Sunday morning, the track just went away. I mean, we had no cloud cover. It was hotter than the rest of the weekend, but not crazy hot. Like it should have been better than it was. And it became very tricky. And that's where my hats are off to Mike Neff and John Schaefer. They made exceptional calls on a very challenging track. And they did things that, we hadn't ordinarily have done on this run we've been on to make sure it went down the racetrack. And that, ultimately put us in a position to win, as the rounds went on Sunday. So, yeah, we got a great setup right now. Mike and John have a great handle on it. And, what those guys have done in the past when they've gotten a handle on a race car, they've won championships. So we're in a position to do that. And, we want to take it one round at a time, get incredible competition out there that'll be gunning for us. And, the points reset, and it really opens up the whole plane. The whole ball field changes, and it's anybody's game.
Yeah, well, it really is. It really is. And it's exciting to see you go into this. The idea that we're going to reset these points and pretty much start from scratch for the most part is going to be pretty amazing to watch. But the success you've had, back-to-back finals, what is it? It's like 4 out of the last 6 finals or some. You've been on a
5
run
out
since
of the last 6, 4 out of the last 5 with the trophy, Joe, and
yeah.
couple back-to-back wins and #1 qualifiers. No, we're on a good run. We're on a good run. It's something that we've been working real hard early in the season to put ourselves in this position. And, there's really no reason why we shouldn't be able to, keep chipping away at this thing as the season unfolds.
But okay, so it's great news when people are getting confused over all the great stats that you've got going, right? Is it 5 of 6? Is it 6 of 7? Like that's you're in a good spot. But at the same time, you've got all these great things that lie ahead, and I'm sure that there's a feeling of anticipation to be able to take what you've built and go get more. The championship with Ford, the U.S. Nationals you've never won, 80 grand in the Pep Boys All-Star call-out. Like, we've got everything set up for us. We just got to keep executing the way we have, and we got a really good shot at all of this.
Yeah, no, and the way we're looking at it in our team, Joe, is one round at a time. First thing we got to do when we get to Indy, we got to qualify for the race. So one round at a time, and make the right adjustments.
One moment, please. He's answering a call, or someone is, man, you're on WFO right now. You're so great. There he is.
The people keep calling me. No, I mean, just looking at it one round at a time. One round at a time. The crew does what they need to do. Driver does what he needs to do. Mike and John, make the right calls, and we'll put ourselves in a position, to win Indy, and that's what we're focused on doing. We're going there. We're not going there to get a sunburn. That's for sure, Joe.
Okay, so this Pep Boys All-Star call out. What's your status in the points right now? Are you going to get to call someone out? Where are you right now? Where did you finish?
No. I want to say we're 5th. So
no,
I think
call out
the top 3 cars call out, and then obviously the 4th one gets whoever's left. And Joe, I don't care who we race. I mean, we've beat them all out there at one point or another, and we're gonna go in there with a lot of confidence to just pick up where we left off in Brainerd. And whoever wants to call me out, I can tell you one thing: we'll be ready for them.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't know. I wonder. And there's going to be a big show, and hopefully Robert gets to call someone out. And John Force said, if you call me out, I'm going to try my best to make you pay. It's interesting, right? It's interesting, but you don't get to call out someone. But I really don't think someone's going to call you out, Bob. It's just my take.
Hey, listen, it is what it is. If they do, Joe, we'll try to make them pay for that decision. But that's what's great. That's what's exciting about this format. And I think in the second round, I think the quicker car gets the call out, right?
Yes, the
That's
quickest
how it works.
ET gets to make the one call out.
Yeah, the one call out. So, hey, listen, hopefully we can do that in the second round if we can get by the first round. But we're going to take one round at a time. We'll have some runs under our belt going into the call out, which that may play a role. A guy sees someone struggling or not running as well on Friday and Saturday, that could change the call out a little bit. But, we want to go into Saturday with a great running car and, try to win that Pep Boy shootout.
Well, exactly. And this guy says Ford versus Chevy. I don't know. My recommendation to everyone is to do something. The spotlight is on you. Do something cool with it. Don't just like pick a name and hug the person. Like, do something cool with it. And I'll be interested to see. All right, let's talk about the 2011 U.S. Nationals final.
2011 U.S. Nationals final. I can tell you this: the guy that beat me can't beat me this year. It's not possible. In fact, the guy that beat me in the 2011 is going to be rooting for me, Joe. I can assure you of that. His name is Mike Neff. It was a great final round. I didn't think we had a car to beat him. We were running good. He was running better. It was a great race, but he won that one. This year, we get to have him in our corner, and hopefully that brings me a little bit more luck than it did back in 2011. I've been to this final 3 times, twice in alcohol, once with the nitro car. Lost both times to Manzo. in the alcohol car, and obviously to Mike Neff. Although I did get Mike Neff back, Joe, in Maple Grove that year. We beat him in the finals in Maple Grove, which was a great race too. So I think we're 1-1 in the finals against each other. But I did remind Mike of that after you and I spoke in the winner's circle in Brainerd, and he loves it. He's done great there over the years, and we want to try to pick up on that magic.
Well, it's very Days of Thunder. It's very movie-like, right? Like you guys raced each other and you battled for things that mattered, that are of consequence. And now you're on the same team and he's your crew chief and you're working together for a common goal. That's movie script stuff. And I hope we can put that out there because I want to see that highlight on the show, right? Like you guys battling against each other and now you're on the same team and you're going after a common goal.
Yeah, that's the way it is. And I couldn't have a better guy in my corner. Always wanted to race with Mike Neff and, John Schaefer, just an incredible duo. I've been around Mike, my entire career racing against Mike, although we did work together a little bit when I was working with John's program back in the earlier days. But he's one cool dude, doesn't show a lot of emotion. We win, he turns around, walks right off the starting line, and that's just his demeanor. He is dead nuts focused on the championship, and race wins are just part of that, just part of that process.
Exactly. All right. But I have a concern that I want to have you address.
Sure.
All your success this year has come with the boys there. And they're not going to be there. Little tiny Tasca told me we've got to go back to school now. And it's got to be really terrible for those boys to have to go back to school after the summer that they have had being on TV and celebrities and drag racing and my gosh, what a fun summer they just had. If you're a kid and you get to do that with your dad, my gosh, that's amazing. And now, no, back to school. And are you going to be able to perform without the boys there, Bob? Are you going to be able to keep up the same level of performance?
Reality sets in. And fortunately, Joe, they had nothing to do with the setup of the race car or the driving of the car or the assembly of the car. So I like my chances that we're going to be able to continue. I'm sure I'm going to be getting a lot of FaceTime calls, which is just fine. But no, they have to go back to school. And reality, I think, hit them pretty hard coming back from Brainerd. But, hey, listen, I sacrifice a lot of time, but I don't sacrifice, the quality of time I get to spend with my kids. And it was an incredible summer. We've done it every single year since I've been racing. They had a blast. And they said, okay, Dad, we'll give up these next couple of races, but make sure I'm in Pomona with you at the end of the year. So, Joe, if all goes according to plan, the boys will be in Pomona, hopefully celebrating a big-time run for the championship.
Wow, that's great. All right, Derek has a question. He wants to know if your team has a nickname, like a group name, like the Yellow Fellas for the DHL guys, for instance. Is there an inside the team name for the team that you can share with us?
No, there is no inside name. We're just the Tasca boys or whatever you want to call us. But no fancy names. We do have some names on some individual characters on the team, but we'll keep those to ourselves, Joe.
I got it. Okay. But how do you handle the pressure on and off the track? That's a very standard question, Derek. But do you even you're a business person?
I'm in the fire pit every day in my business, acquiring stores, buying stores, working with banks and lenders. And I am. Sometimes I think racing to me is where I can go to just kind of reset myself. And, the pressure for me is when you don't have a good car. When you have a good car, I think the pressure of keeping it there is way more fun than the pressure of trying to figure out how to get there. And, I've been on that side of the equation for many years in my career. It's great to have a car and a team that's really clicking at the right time. So, I don't, the pressure doesn't get to me, maybe because of just how my whole lifestyle is built. A lot of people don't know when I'm done with racing, there are drivers that's all they do, right? So they're little kind of relaxation time. For me, I'll relax when it's all over, whenever that is, Joe.
So before I let you go, you relayed a story about going up to Ford. I guess it was Dearborn or wherever, and they had a wall with all their champions on the wall. And these are people you'd been around and people you'd seen, people you'd worked with, and you're like looking at the thing and you thought the reality hit you. Man, I'm not on the wall, man. I'm not on the wall. When you told that story, I could feel it. I could feel all the emotion that was there. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think
so that's
driving you.
It's a great story. I had no sponsorship at the time. That's when Ford pulled out of drag racing. And to be honest with you, I could have probably packed it in, and I had a lot going on at the dealerships. We're growing rapidly. And I went to the Detroit Auto Show. Never forget it. And I saw that wall as they were launching the GT40 program, and they had all the champions on it. I wasn't on it. And I think in that moment, I said to myself, I'm going to double down on this thing. I'm going to go back as hard as I can, one last time to try to get this thing put back together. And at the time, Mark Fields was leading the company. He was not a drag racing fan, to say the least. And then Jim Farley took over. And it was like, okay, this is my shot to sell this program. And very fortunate that Ford decided to come back with me. Been with them my whole racing career. I won't drive. I wouldn't even consider driving for anyone else. And they believed in a second round, and the second round has been an incredible ride. We started out, putting this thing back together. Mike and John came on board, and I got the best shot to get up on that wall of champions, and it's incredible names. I mean, John Force, Tony Pedregon, Bernstein back in the Motorcraft days, and then you look at the champions that they've had with Bob Glidden. I mean, it's just incredible. And go through NASCAR and go through the GT40 program. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary, the history of Ford, and to be able to polish that a little bit more and to get the Tasca name up on that wall, that would be a dream come true for me. So we'll see.
Good luck, Bob. Thank you for sharing that
story.
Always a
pleasure.
Back to work now. We'll see you in a few days.
Bye-bye.
All right, there he goes. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you. Bob Tasca with us here on WFO. He's in the fire pit, baby. I love dramatic hyperbole, right? What is this? The nephews? Yeah, the nephews. Hey, exactly. He's got that very, the Rhode Island accent. All right, guys, let's get some comments in the comment section. Let's talk Indy. We'll be on with Reinhart at 1:00 tomorrow. I've got some very important things to tell everybody, so don't sign off, all you people who are here to see Steve Torrence and here to see Bob Tasca. I got some stuff I want to talk to you about. Like, for instance, last week on WFO really isn't a last week. It's a current, as in our indie shows. Josh Hart, John Force, Leah Pruitt, Ricky Smith, and the whole discussion of the D-Wagon controversy and his retirement. Reinhart, Ignition. We got an Ignition show coming out tonight. All good stuff, all current right now. So go to the YouTube channel, WFO Radio TV, click subscribe, and check it all out. When you guys share the show, it helps us so much. It helps us so much. And it helps drag racing and the drivers, because more people get to know their personalities and how cool they are and all the great stuff that they've got going on. So share that. Of course, we would appreciate it. And Torrence and Tasca here today. But tomorrow we'll be back on with Reinhart. And we're going to have Matt Hartford on. And we're adding all the time in that Alan Reinhart hour. So, and that'll be the final show of the week. The reason I'm telling you all this stuff is because I'm going to be relying on you to share everything leading into the big go. And I'm just looking at some of the numbers and some of the stuff, like Wilk over Caps last year. Caps, another runner-up. The fact that it was Steve and Brittany. Britt's got to call out Steve, right? She's got to walk up to him and slap him with a glove or something. Poke him in the belly, something like Brittany calling out Justin or Brittany calling out Mike Salinas. It just doesn't have the same as it would if Britt said, you know what, 4-time champ, it's you and me. I just think that would make such great television. In the end, what makes the best television? What gets people the most interested? That's what I'm wondering about. So tell me your thoughts on that. And who should Robert Hite call out? That's a totally different deal. There's a lot. I don't think Robert's not going to pick. He's not going to pick Force. Although that would be funny if he did. He's not going to pick Force. And he's not going to pick Tasca. So who's he going to pick? I think that's kind of an interesting angle. Who's Robert going to pick? But before we get into all that, I just want to tell you about the people who genuinely make it possible for me to go WFO, like Marvin Rodak. I'm drinking some Rodak's coffee today, and I'm thinking about, he's in Fort Worth, Texas. He used to be an auto restoration guy, and there would be a pot of coffee there, and we'd get all gross and dried out. And he said, man, this is garbage. I want to learn more about this. 30 years later, he's still roasting coffee as his business. Barbecue, hot sauce, spice rub, tools, tips, information. If you're in Fort Worth, you can go get a high-end grill there or a low-end grill. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Torque Calibration Services of Australia. This is Matt Clark, torquecalibrationservices.com.au. He is in Australia, and they work with land moving companies, earth movers, heavy equipment, and also racing teams to keep all the torque calibration absolutely dead nuts on for the tools. And they're one of the largest independent companies in all of the Australia Pacific. So go to the website. If you're down under or anywhere where he can help you, use Matt, because he's supporting our U.S. Nationals coverage. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. This is one, the Dragster Adventure. You can drive a dragster for very little money. You show up with nothing. You don't have to buy a helmet. You don't have to get a fire suit. They provide everything. And you get to make 3 runs down the track, 1 half track and 2 full track passes. They travel around. You don't have to fly anywhere. You figure out where they're coming that's close to you, and you just go there. And you spend the day with Frank Hawley. It is a great program. Now, maybe you want to get your top alcohol funny car license. That's cool too. But for my listeners that are fans of drag racing, you guys should do this. You'll understand the sport so much more. Samtech.edu. I'm thinking about the Constant Aviation Factory Stock Showdown, but I can't think about it without thinking about the folks at Samtech and how hard they worked to put it all together, right? If you want to become an engine builder, a machinist, a CNC programmer, a motorsports EFI guy, they've got courses in all of that. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. So if you're thinking about that for a career, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I could just become a shade tree guy and, pick up some of the stuff along the way. This is a better way nowadays. And plus, they can place you with teams that trust them. And there are so many. Like we mentioned, the Stanfields on a regular basis. They get their guys from Samtech, and it's worked out very well for them. So go to samtech.edu and give them a call and ask for Brian Massengill by name. Like, Brian, Castello sent me. I'm interested. And that will be great stuff. Bernie Speed Shop, Ocala, Florida. Bernie's.com. Josh Hart was on last week. The story of how he started Bernie's, going door to door, asking to detail people's cars. And now they've got a 100,000 square foot building, and they do everything there. And they've got an inventory of classic muscle cars. So if you're looking for a classic muscle car, Josh Hart, Bernie Speed Shop, go to their website, follow them on social, and you'll learn so much more. Phillips Connect, smart trailer technology. But what does it all mean? If you sell trailers, buy trailers, sell trailers, travel with trailers, smart trailer technology keeps you safe and your load safe and your business on time. Jim Epler has created all these different sensors that are web connected to keep your drivers knowledgeable about what's going on. Like truck 42, you've got a wheel hub that's heating up back there. You better pull over and check it out. In another world, that could be a blowout. It could be a problem. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We are going to have 2 Total Seal Trackside Tech Talks, one on Friday, one on Saturday. Friday's at 1. Saturday, there's 2 times that are listed, so I'm going to just tweet it out. But if you've got a ticket to the race, you're welcome at the Track Tech Talk. If you're a Lucas Oil Series racer and you're out there watching this from stacking, the Trackside Tech Talk is very valuable information. Stock eliminators, super stock, comp, all the engine builders that are going to be in Indy. I would expect you will get a lot from this Trackside Tech Talk, plus FaceTime with the guys at Total Seal. You should come by. It's all an exercise to educate people about the importance of ring seal, something that I am going through with my own engine, which is now halfway apart, down to mostly a short block. Going to need a hone. I'm going to have to hone it, right? A little too shiny in there. A couple of things, little problems. And you can imagine, when you open up a project, you find Well, maybe we should get some aluminum cylinder heads. I don't know. And it's becoming an issue. I'm going to write a story about it. It's going to be up on YouTube, so like our channel. But TotalSeal.com and FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. This is one, FTI or the field in various categories, super comp, super gas. That will be a tough one, right? FTIperformance.com, transmissions, torque converters, not just for big money bracket racers and .90 racers, though. Whether it be Pro Mod, Top Dragster, Top Sportsman, the extremely powerful stuff, monster trucks, mega trucks, even powerful street cars, or your Turbo 350 shift kit for the road warrior, person out there with a fast car that just wants to drive around. FTI does it all, FTIperformance.com. And then there's the Patreons, guys, the Patreons. These are the people who support our show. They get to guest host the Ignition show. They get to watch the recording session. We're going to do a meetup out there in Indy for Patreons on Saturday, and we're going to walk the pits a little bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to join the Patreons, go to patreon.com/WFO radio, but you don't have to. You don't have to. This is for people who really love the show and you want to support the show and help us, dominate the world. And our WFO store is rolling too. But let's see what some of the comments are out there. Fast Eddie, he just joined the Patreons. Great show, Joe. Yeah, we got to keep it going, right? We've been 7 straight days or 6 straight days of WFO. The call out should create drama. I believe it will create interest in our sport. I think so too. But people have got to understand it and buy into it. And what's happening in Fuel Tech Pro Mod, I think, is the best example. Like, they just had a big dust up. They had a big blow up. They're having these meme wars where they're taking pictures of each other and they're cutting the heads off the pictures and putting them on other things and making them funny. And the meme war in Fuel Tech Pro Mod has been so refreshing. I would love our Camping World Series drivers to see the horrible things that J.R. Gray and Khaled Al-Belushi and Lyle Barnett say to each other's faces and then laugh and hug each other, because that is fun. They are just having fun attacking each other's core, like what they're all about. Oh, man. They said such horrible things to Al-Belushi about him being a bad driver. And he's laughing and they're pointing back and forth and they had so much fun. This call out, and Brittany is the first one who gets to do it. Like, what do you do with this moment? Do you just strategize about who's going to be the easiest to defeat? Man, that's not good for the show, especially when it's Mike Salinas and Justin Ashley and Steve Torrence. Nobody's easy to beat. Every one of them can beat you. Every one of them can get off the starting line. Every one of they're running against champions, basically. So nobody's easy to beat. What's the most fun? What's going to cause the biggest ripple in the motorsports media pond? What's going to get the most attention for you, your sponsors, your team, even if you lose? You call out Mike Salinas and you lose, and it's like, oh, you tried to get cute, like pick. I don't want to say he's the weakest of the guys. I don't even want to say that. Like, whoever you call out, except for Steve, is going to be like highly motivated. Steve's going to be highly motivated. They're all highly motivated. There's no way out. What's going to be the biggest, most interesting thing? And the same is true for Robert Hight. What is the biggest, most interesting thing? Do you want to fight against the weakest person, or you want to fight against the strongest person? You got to beat him no matter what. And I would like to see the same for Robert Hight. What would be the most interesting? What if Robert Hight picked Bob Tasca? You know what, Bob? You've been having a good run. You had a good run, but we're gonna punch you in the face right here and knock you out of this first round and put an end to it. Okay, let's say that doesn't happen and Bob wins. Oh, no, does that mean the end of our chance? No, it doesn't. It's like Smokey and Friday. Debo tells me to stop talking, but when he's gone, I'm talking again. Something like that. Same deal. You got to be impervious to being humbled. Impervious to being humbled. Just say what you got to say and then go do what you got to do. And if it doesn't work out, say what you got to say again. Say what you got to say again. And so maybe Robert should call out Hagan, or maybe Robert should call out Tasca. And like Steve Torrence just said, all you're doing was delaying the inevitable. You're giving them another shot at the track anyway. Do what is most interesting. And don't just say a name. Like a prop would be great. Like something funny with Hagan's head on it. Or, these ProMod guys are doing such a great job with their memes, right? Like if, let's say, Robert Hite was going to call out Ron Capps. Okay. I'm just making stuff up. He's going to call out Ron Capps. This is not really a Robert Hite kind of thing to do, but this is why I'm making the point. Let's say Robert Hite's going to call out Ron Capps. You could just say, I call out Ron Capps. Or you could bring out like a stuffed Napa fire suit with, you could come up with 100 different fun and funny things to make a spectacle, to create a spectacle of this situation. This is who I'm calling out, a balloon with Cap's face on it, and you pop it. We're just throwing spitballs now. But all of those spitballs are better than just saying a name and walking off the stage and having somebody come out and shake hands. No, we're creating a spectacle. We're trying to generate interest. We're trying to get people to say to themselves, I have to see that. When is that on? I have to see that after that guy just did that. Now, of course, stay within the rules and confines of society. You're not allowed to talk about anyone's mama. Can't do that. There are certain things that would be over the line. And that's what judgment is. And everyone should have judgment and know how to do this. Let's see. All right, let's see what everyone's got to say out there. This guy says Hite's going to call out the cruiser. Yeah, maybe. Okay, and like Reinhart said last week, when you get called out, what is your response? Okay, well, I'll show you. Okay, I mean, that could work. But having a response prepared, because not everybody's super witty, having a response prepared, and it doesn't have to be mean, like Reinhart was like mean, he's going to storm off, right? I'll show you. That was, but there's ways to do it with fun and humor too. We'll see. Blake has made picks for the U.S. Nationals. John Force, Tony Schumacher, Matt Smith, and Erica Enders. That's a lot of wins together. There's a lot of wins and championships together. Blake going with the faves. Erica going for 3 in a row. Did you watch Happy Hour with Courtney and Jason? We brought Happy Hour back for the U.S. Nationals Friday. And even though today is Monday, it's early in the week, you can go back and watch it. A lot of interesting information was shared that I cannot capsulize here. Thanks for putting in the work and keeping us informed, says the Mark Banks Experience. When I was on XM and they were going to give me my own total motorsports show, I wanted it to be called the Joe Castello Motorsports Experience. So we're on the same page, right? With that. Instead, we called it Power Shift. The great start of the week for the Big Go. That's right, guys. Robot probably going to pick the DHL team. Well, now we've got people mixing it up. Who are they going to pick? How do you think JR would feel about that? Like, oh, man. I'd pick the weakest. Beating on the betters to have a bad run could bite you in the. No, that's a wimpy thing to do, Derek. That's why if you were ever to go to the pen, you would be in a bad spot because you don't know the rules. You got to watch more movies, Derek. You got to go up to the biggest, baddest dude and you got to punch him in the nose. And that's the way society works. When you pick the weakest and then you lose and trip on your own self, you look pathetic. If you go up against the biggest, baddest dude, you never look pathetic, even in defeat. That's the way I see it. Hite will call out the cruiser, says Chuck. Oh, everyone's saying Hite's going to call out the cruiser. See if this happens. Hite Hagan, Caps Force, Cruz Tim, Tasca Taxis is what I called them. Tasca and Alexis. Taxis. I remember that one, everybody. I won't, but I like it. Brittany versus Salinas, Hite versus Alexis. I guess that's the call-outs. You think Hite's going to take Alexis? Man, picking on a girl. I don't know. Jimmy Prock, Chris Cunningham. You think those guys are going to do that? Who's making the decisions at John Force Racing? That's the question. It's obviously the brain trust. I hope the media people are allowed to be involved. The call out should create drama. I believe it would draw interest to our sport. Of course it will. People love that stuff. Like the wheel of doom that we were talking about. Great show, Joe. Thank you. Would love to see the Top Fuel bikes get a series sponsor and get out there. You know what, Derek? Here's the thing. Bobby Bennett got me upset today with a story. And Bobby, if you're out there, I love you, bud. With a story about how the 24 Top Fuel dragsters that are entered, everyone is excited about. But really, back in the day, there were way more. And back in the day, and it's basically, if you could cover that story with a things were better back in the day hashtag, right? Like there's so many stories that come out of the drag racing media these days that could be filed under things were better back in the day. Rapid fire. Like you look at a story. What is this story? What category is this story? Things were better back in the day. All right, we're going to file it under that. Do this from now on, right? Generally positive, generally negative. That's the first thing you do. Is this a positive story or is this a negative story? It's a negative story. 9 out of 10 is going to be a negative story. I didn't create that. That's just the way I perceive it. Maybe I'm wrong. Is this a positive story or a negative story? Okay, negative. Under the file that says negative, what different other subfiles do we have? Well, under negative, we have things were better back in the day. We've got racing is too expensive. We've got, nobody pays attention, right? Like those are the 3 files under negative. Well, everyone goes under things were better back in the day. And I was a little disappointed. Why on earth are we doing that? Like, even if things were better back in the day, why point it out right now? What's the point of pointing that out right now? Is that going to make things better now? Is it going to make things better than they were back in the day by pointing out the fact that they were better back in the day? No. And by the way, they were not better back in the day. Those cars that were there, half of them were leakers. Half of them blew up and scattered the entire contents of the engine onto the track. And then we were down for 3 hours. It was not better back in the day. And you didn't have Pro Mod there. Like how many of those Pro Mod guys in the back in the day reference would have had built a Top Fuel dragster, right? Instead, now you have so many more choices. The things were better back in the day argument is basically saying having fewer choices is better. You had fewer choices to go fast. If you wanted to go fast back in the day, you had to go Top Fuel or Funny Car. You want to go fast, alcohol, funny car, alcohol, dragster, pro comp, that kind of stuff. You had very limited choices. Now, those leaker cars that were there back in the day as the 28th and 29th entry, those people are top tier racers running in top dragster or a fuel or pro mod or top sportsman. There are way more quality racers now than they were back in the day. It's not even a debate, except we've got stories right before the biggest drag race in the world where we got, I think Lone said, 937 entrants. And someone, Bobby, is going to put out a story about things were better back in the day. Now, maybe there was a line buried in there that said something similar to what I'm saying. But I read the initial story and I decided I didn't want to go all the way in on it because it was generally negative under the file of things were better back in the day. Not this week, man. Do you want to make the sport better? We got all this stuff to talk about. The call outs. Is it a good thing for the sport? Is it a bad thing for the sport? Who's going to call out whom? Brittany and Steve last year in the final round, they're battling for the championship. Steve Torrence going to be going into the countdown, not in first place for the first time in his championship run. There's endless storylines. How about focus on Super Street? How about focus on Comp Eliminator? Like there's an endless story. There doesn't need to be a negative story at all. At all. On the week of Indy. There should be no negatives. John Force has got a big open house. There's all kinds of stuff going on. My point is, Derek, who triggered me, Derek, the Top Fuel bikes and they don't have a series sponsor and get back out there. Yes, that would be wonderful. Go sell it. Go connect with the guys and go sell it. I would love to see that too. But it's not about what we don't have. It's about what we do have. A generally positive story. Are you generally positive or are you generally negative? That is the big divider. Brittany going to call out AB. AB is not in the race. We did the first round of the Pep Boys All-Star call-out in Gainesville, and Brittany did call out Antron Brown, and she defeated him because he was, not running well at the time. I think we've got great video in our Twitter feed of that. She did not call out Steve, call out Justin. Okay. She does not call out Steve Austin. No, I would. Stone Cold? Definitely don't call out Stone Cold Steve Austin. Brittany should call out Leah, except Leah's not in it because they're down to 4 cars. She calls out Mike. Robert calls out Bob Tasca. That would be interesting. Height comes back with a Hagen stash. See, now we're talking. That's exactly what Height should do. You should come out with a Hagen stash and call out Hagen. Yep, everyone loves it. Roscoe, by the way, Roscoe P. Coltrane is the Yeti from Brainerd, who we all forced to work. A branding iron. Now you guys are getting creative. That's what I want. Yes. Just don't turn the call-outs into pro wrestling. Okay, you know what, Lonnie? I'm going to push back on that. Why not? Like, that's my pushback, okay? You're getting a little extended Joe today. Why not emulate some pro wrestling? Excuse me, wrestling. Because I can tell you that a large majority of the adult males that I know look back at Hot Rod Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan and Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and Ric Flair, and all of those guys with adoration and respect and humor and fun and love and appreciation and happiness and joy at the entertainment that they created with their craziness. So why not turn something a little bit into pro wrestling? Do you know how much money pro wrestling is worth? The industry of pro wrestling. Now, what we don't want is fake outcomes. But that's not what this is. You're not going to get a fake outcome. You're going to get a real outcome. It's a competition. NHRA assures that with prize money, with competition. But why can't we have some pro wrestling? Like, why is pro wrestling such a negative connotation when it has done so well and entertained so many? It has been one of the greatest successes of the 20th century in marketing. Wrestling. Why would that be bad? If drag racers, a perfect example, okay? Okay, Robert, this is your chance to call someone out. Who would you like to call out? And then Robert takes the microphone. Let me tell you something now, Brian. I have been watching this season for a long time, and there are some people on this stage that I've got a personal beef with, and I'm going to settle it here today. Matt Hagen. And just go with it. What's wrong with that? That would be very pro wrestling. Very pro wrestling. Robert took the mic out of someone's hands and goes off on a riff. What? It would be ingenious. So I say yes for pro wrestling. Chuck. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Roscoe's idea for the win. Less kumbaya on the call out and more I'm going to get you. Well, exactly. Or humor. I probably would go for Tasca. I don't know. JR isn't in it. He'll be in the booth. Right. Indy picks Schumacher, Hagen, Enders, Krawick. Okay. Eddie, back to back. My problem with the call-outs is that how much of it is really the crew chief choice and then the driver? Well, but what difference does it make? What difference does that make? Who cares? Like, the driver is the spokesperson who has to go out and execute the order. What difference does that make? Preach. Yeah, I'm not preaching. I think these are facts. I think they should have a driver's chip draw. Okay, so I'm over the chip draw now. I've witnessed a bunch of chip draws. I have now participated in a bunch of chip draws, 2 at the World Door Slammer Nationals and 1 in Brainerd the Fuel Tech. And you know what? It's not that great, guys. It's not that great. It's definitely different than the ladder. It gets you away from the ladder, but it's not that great. It's just totally random. The visual isn't even that great. You just see a guy walking up and reach into a receptacle and pulls out a thing, and then he walks away. And then they call him out. All right, the number ones come forward, and they all look at their thing, and then they come forward and they go, oh, I got to run you. And then they hug or they shake and then they walk away. Chip draw. Arrow down. It's over. I think. It's better than the ladder. It's more random than the ladder. I think we got to the ladder because of evolution. And we figured out the call out is better than the chip draw. Call out greater than chip draw, my opinion. I'd say the competition is closer today than ever. Every car has to make the show as a shot to win. Absolutely. Comments should be made to help move the sport forward. Absolutely. Well, in this audience, again, are you generally positive or generally negative? What's better today? Downtime. I'll take today's 24 cars and the length of round by round versus the old days and the downtime it took to get through a round. More side-by-side run today, period. Exactly, Billy. And Billy should know. Billy's dad won the U.S. Nationals back in like 19. What year was that, Billy? Was it 60? Was it 2? Was it the first? South Florida represent, by the way. U.S. Nationals, Angel, runner-up last year. Greg Anderson for the 100th. Wow. JR and Antron. That will make JR happier, maybe. True, Billy, in the 1980s and 90s, oil down was 30 to 60 minutes. Not 30 minutes, 60 minutes, most of them. And the guys would go back and they'd be sitting on the tailgate of the truck and they would all have one of those push brooms and they would pour the stuff down and they would go back and forth with the broom. And it was the best you could do at the time. And that meant you're going for a walk. Time to go for a walk. We don't have that anymore. A.B., Greg Anderson, Joey, and Cruz. Yeah, why wouldn't Joey Gladstone just continue his reign of terror? As much as I want to see Ron Capps get his first U.S. Nationals win, I think it'd be cool to have yet another U.S. Nationals first and have all female pro winners. That would be very interesting. That's why I'm staying out of the predictions biz. There's too many good things that could happen. I would like to see Robert versus this guy is typing robot on purpose versus John Ford, Steve Torrence versus Justin Ashley. I don't think Robert is robot. I think Robert Haidt is an interesting, compelling personality. You just got to listen to him. Like I talk to Robert all the time. Robert's on this show a lot, and he's always bringing interesting takes. He's bringing up subjects. He's bringing up baseball. Add-ons. Oh, and by the way, what about this, Joe? Robert Haidt is an interesting, compelling person. He is not robotic at all, unless you're talking about his driving and the fact that he wins. The Pro Mod and Door Slammer scene is so popular because of the controversy. Yeah, because of the controversy. The racing is, good, but the controversy, they're pro level. They get everybody talking about everything. All these YouTube channels that I see about what this person said about this other person. There's 10 people making a video about what this person said about that person. That's what's going on. And we in pro drag racing, we don't have anybody saying anything about anybody. And that's what this is for. So let it fly. I would like to see Robert versus John. Okay, I showed that one. All right, make snap into a Slim Jim. Yeah, Miss Elizabeth. I'm not good at my wrestling stuff while I'm on the air. I have to have a beer. Let's bring some Macho Man Randy Savage into the call-outs. Well, yes. Hot Rod Joe. Yes. No messing with Hagen. He's huge. But that's the whole point. Like, Hagen's the guy you got to go right up to. And you got to pop him in the chops. You got to pop him in the chops, metaphorically speaking. I could be Mean Gene. I would love to be Mean Gene. I would love to be Mean Gene. I would love to be Howard Cosell with Muhammad Ali. Absolutely. Okay, now it's getting old. I like the wrestling promo approach to the call-out. It should be mandatory. That would get some attention. Well, of course it would. The wrestling promo style. Who would you like to call out? And then everybody should have something prepared and rehearsed. How about having a fan vote for the call out? Oh, I'm so against fan votes. Fan votes, I'm against them. This is my opinion. WFO, I'm against fan votes. I'm bored of fan votes. I'm tired of the fan votes. Fan votes, not that I love the fans, but I'm against fan votes. We did that. whoever has the best social media marketing team on salary, they're going to win it. The fan vote. No. It's not organic. They get the chip draw thing from Street Outlaws and No Prep. I know they do. I know where it came from. And grudge racing. Prior to that, there was racing before those shows, believe it or not. It's kind of a stat that people don't realize. But there was that whole scene that show is kind of an homage to. And the chip draw. And it's a way to do it. It's a way to fairly manage a race, officiate a race. Like, who's going to run whom? And how do we do it in a fair way? Well, let's make it totally random with a chip draw. In the NHRA, by becoming the number one qualifier, you earn something, and you get to run the number 16 qualifier. You're on a ladder. Qualifying matters. And that stuff, there's no qualifying. They don't even know their ETs. So it's just random. It was 1966, Billy's dad. 65 runner-up, 66 won. Look at that. Torrance caps GA. Selig doesn't even care about the bikes. Stephen Fast says, you have to choose a side. Well, when Hulk Hogan and Hot Rod Roddy Piper would battle, there was nobody who was just saying, I'll watch this and see who wins, or it doesn't matter, right? When Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, were battling, everybody chose a side because they cared. They knew it was nonsense. They know it's fake. They know it's fake. It's nonsense. But you got the good guy and you got the bad guy. You got son of a plumber from Austin, Texas now, daddy. Or, you got Ric Flair. Woo! You got to choose a side. And everybody chooses a side because they have a reason to choose a side because the character forced them in a direction with his behavior. All by design. So why can't we have a little bit of that? Why can't we have a little bit of that? You want to grow the sport. That's what you do. Woo! We can see Brittany win Top Fuel and John win Funny Car, but it all come down to the drivers. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Yeah, Gladstone for PSM. All right, guys. Hey, big thanks to all our sponsors. WFO Radio would be nothing without them. We really appreciate everybody jumping on board to support our U.S. Nationals coverage. And the YouTube channel. You guys, share the show. Just, share, retweet. If you feel like it's too extreme today, I understand. I kind of got up on the soapbox. But it's U.S. Nationals Week. The Dodge Power Brokers U.S. Nationals. The Big Go. Hashtag The Big Go. And I really think everybody in drag racing should be on the same page on this week. So many positive stories, so many intriguing stories, so many great competition-based stories. Wearing your gear, wearing your clothes, telling people to watch on Fox this weekend. That's what I think should be happening. Thanks to Steve Torrance, who's on vacation, who joined us. Thanks to Bob Tasca for taking a break from the fire pits. And thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock. We'll be back on Ignition later tonight.